We're going to be installing a door into this pantry. It's going to be a right-hand swing door, so it's going to swing into the room from this side. So this will be our hinge side. The first thing you want to do is check that the opening is the right size. We have a 24-inch door, so we're going to need about 2.5 inches bigger than the 24 inches, so 26 to 26.5 is usually pretty good. This one's actually around 27 at the top and a little smaller at the bottom. I've checked the jambs. This jamb is a little bit out at the top here, quite a bit. So we're just gonna have to watch that. But the hinge side is pretty good, so we'll just double check, and if we do need to shim this out or whatever, we can do that. We have our height is fine. For an 80-inch door, you want at least 2 inches above that, which we have. I've checked the top. The top is plumb, but the floor is way out. So that's something we're gonna have to address first. So as you can see, the floor is way out. So what I do is we stick a level on there, then we shim it up, and then what we're gonna do is just get the bubble in the center and then measure up. So I have about 1/2 inch or 12 millimeters. So what we're gonna do is start off, we need to have the floor level. If the top's off, it's not as big of a deal as long as you have a nice gap up there. If it's way out, then we need to fix that. But 1/2 inch off the bottom, and then the top's not too bad. So I've got 27 at the top and 26.5 at the bottom. So I was hoping to build this out to have a little bit more jam here, but I'm not going to be able to. So what we're going to do is go tight. I've got some drywall sticking out here, so I'm going to have to cut that off. So here's our door. It's a pre-hung door. We're out in the garage. We're going to cut the jam off first, but what we want to make sure is we have the swing the right way. So I've set it up. I know it swings into the room this way, and I know that this side is higher than that side, so we need to cut 1/2 inch off this side. So before I take the straps and the plate and stuff out, I'm just going to put it on the ground. Whoop, try not to bust the door. Put it on the ground. It stays up nice for us because it's still in the jam. Okay, and then I'm just gonna measure up 1/2 inch, use a square to square it off, and then what I'm gonna do is just cut it with a skill saw before I even take it in. So I'm getting pretty close to the door, but I still have enough room. So if you had to actually go a little bit more than what the door is, then you'd have to take the door out. But in this case, it's easier just to leave the door in. I've got a good 1/2 inch left, so that's gonna be fine. Okay, we're gonna try this door. Now, if your hinge side isn't perfectly flat, then what you may wanna do is take some shims and plumb your wall up. Get it plumb and take a nail gun and put some nails in, because the hinge side is going to kind of dictate how your door is going to hang. So we're going to get this side in and check the top, and then do the strike side at the end. So, but first we got to get this floor leveled up. So we need to get the door in level and kind of get it plumb as best we can, just to check that the top is okay. So if you get this ready, that's going to help. Door in. Okay. And push it tight to the side. I'm just going to check that this side is in fact plumb or close to it. So looks like just the bottom's out a little bit, just from this plate at the bottom. So we can stick a shim in. More like that. Okay, and now we want to check the top. We should be pretty good. You can sometimes cheat the jam up just a little bit and people won't notice, but you don't want to go more than, I'd say, a 1/16. If you want it really perfect, shave a little bit more off it. but it's going to be close enough for what we're doing. I got to get the straps off and get the stop out of here, and then we're ready to go. Okay. Okay, so what we want to do first is get the jamb side in as level and plumb as we can, and we want it flush with the front of the drywall. Now, door jambs have a bit of an angle, so that you want to make sure the face is as level with it. You can use a small level or whatever just to make sure that it is, in fact, plumb with the front. Now this wall isn't great, so we can cheat. We want to try and get this door jamb plumb both ways, but we can only go so far before we could be in trouble. So you have to make a few adjustments, but this looks pretty good here now. And I know I got to get this top out. If you're having trouble, you can always take the door out. The door doesn't have to stay in there, it's just saves you some time if you can do it. Okay, so that's good and plumb this way, plumb this way. So what I want to do for now is just get a couple nails. Now, if you can take off the door stop and hide your nails behind there. If you're making your own jamb and doing your own door, then you'd leave the door stop off and get everything set. We don't have that. This only has a few nails in it. I can try and get it off, but I find with the pine it always just breaks anyways. So we're just going to use a few nails to hold it. We're going to double check it again. Not too bad. Okay, and now what we want to do is close the door. And I'm just going to double check this top again. It's good enough. Happy with that. Okay. So now we want to get a consistent gap around this door, and same thing, try to line it up so this gap around the door here has got to be the same. We also don't want the jambs to be out of whack with each other, so we're going to use the door to kind of help us with that. So we want to get the jamb placed, and then we're going to shim everything out. We're going to set it with some nails, and what you can do is you put your nail just above and below your shim so that you can move your shims in and out, and then once they're set in place, then you can set another nail to leave it there. We're going to do the top, the bottom, and then I usually do around the strike plate, and then you can always do kind of in this area, but we want to make sure it's solid at the strike plate. You always want to do your shims against each other so that your jamb is sitting nice and flat, and you can check that as you go along. Sometimes the stud is going to be twisted, so you have to cheat a little bit. So you just got to keep going through, adjusting the shims and make sure everything's nice around the whole thing. So I'm too gappy here, so what I want to do is pull this and get my shims a little bit closer. Alright, so adjust your shims. So you have about an 1/8 of an inch to 3/16 gap all the way up. So you can see it's tighter up here, bigger at the bottom. So we're going to keep shimming it all up until it's the same. Okay, so the door is all shimmed up by all the hinges, and then I usually do 4 on this side, making sure we get this, and we make sure that our gap is consistent along the top, over on this side, all along the door, all the way down. Okay, so about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. You also want to make sure that when you close the door, the reveal right at the top doesn't touch before the bottom. What that tells you is the jamb is not plumb. You can also come out and take a look outside. So when you close the door, with these pre-hungs, you can see that the door stop is in the same spot. Now the door stop might be off, or you may have not used the door stop yet, so you just want to feel the back. It's flush up there, and it's flush at the bottom at the same time. So once you've got it all set, you can throw a few more nails in and hold it, but then you want to put some larger nails or some screws. Again, if the door stop wasn't on there, it's good to hide. You can hide screws there. You can use a 16 gauge, like 2.5 inch nail. You can use spikes or something. You just want something a little heavier duty to hold this door in. The casing will help it keep in, but you want to have your doors good and solid in case somebody slams it or whatever, it doesn't move on you. Once you have it all set, we're going to screw everything in, and then we're going to cut off all these shims with an oscillating tool. You can also use a knife or a handsaw or whatever. So I'm going to pre-drill with a countersink pre-drill bit so that the screws are nice and flush in there, and screw them in. I use a 3-inch screw. Now you want to double check that nothing moved around too much, because the screws will move it. I did notice some movement, so I'm just going to double check, close the door and everything, make sure it's all good. You can also, instead of putting the screws in the jamb, if these are off, it's great, but you can also put the screws take one of the screws out of the hinges and put a big screw in there if you don't want to fill the holes. But if I'm already filling 3 holes on the one side, with a few more holes, right? Okay, so everything looks good. We are going to cut the shims off now.
That's all there is to hanging a door. You're ready for your casing, some paint, throw on a handle, and you're all done. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and share it to anybody else looking to hang a door. Thanks.